Thank you, Aditya. Do I have your permission to start? Thank you so much. We have a very, very esteemed panel here, very, very distinguished and, accomplished, to discuss about something which is very, very close to everybody's heart, as Aditya pointed out, that, all of us use social media to I mean, certain extents which may go beyond 8 hours for some. And what is the impact on mental health? Now, the thing is that the World Health Organization has said that, they have predicted that mental health was going to be the biggest problem for India. And currently, also about 15% of the Indian population is grappling with mental health. So it's a very, very sensitive, very, very touchy topic. And we have the distinguished guests who ponder upon that and deliberate so that you guys also learn the wisdom which is there. So to start with, just a couple of minutes each on your thought on social media and its relevance to mental health. Starting from you, ma'am.
I thank God, I thank Christ for this privilege and this opportunity. Just an opening statement on this. So listening to the previous panelists, I realize our children live in a world of paradox. They have all the information at their fingertips, still trying to make sense and meaning of it. They have a lot more opportunities ahead of them, greater that anxiety. And I think one of the things I've realized is over time, as we endeavor to equip our children to thrive in a world full of distractions, we can equip them with a sense of balance and intentionality. Teach them to not just navigate and manage stress, but really have a skill and the ability really to form meaningful connections. Seek wisdom in the midst of it all. And more than academics is more than just achievement. It's about being humane. It's about developing a mindset that helps you seek purpose and meaning in life and for life itself.
Given that the world is changing and we are faced with a lot of challenges, one thing which is very important is to acknowledge that the world that we are living in is a world that we have to live in and deal with it. When we talk about social media, accepting that it is a part of our life, first of all, that's very important. Understanding that while we may have it, what do we do with it? What do we do about it? And what do we do around it? That's very important. Probably that's an art we all are still struggling, even as adults, to find our ways. I was just sharing with my colleagues that it's so easy to fall prey to reels. You begin one and you start seeing. One after the other, you begin to see. When does it become a habit? You just don't understand. But is this something that we can get rid of? Maybe no. It's the flow. And we will have to evolve with the flow. It will bring its challenges, but it will also bring the wisdom to deal with these challenges. And I'm sure we don't have answers to those because we are not a generation which has been brought up with that, with the social media. But we are becoming a part of the social media, and the challenges are just the same for each one of us. But I think it's very important for us to understand that whenever we have something new, it comes with its problems. But that's life, that's evolution. Finding ways is very important. Drawing that balance is very important. There were a lot of criticism when computers came in. There was criticism, when we moved from fans to coolers to ACs. And I think our generation has seen the biggest amount of change, right from sleeping on the terrace and looking at the sky to having coolers to ACs, So with this huge transition that has happened, we need to flow with it, but we also need to create mechanisms. We need to create those borders. We need to create those filters, the bridges, and of course, what we call them, the barriers to ensure that whatever we do with a balance and understand what's the larger goal. If we are able to do that as adults, as well as we are able to help our children do that, I think it will make a difference.
So social media is here to stay. We as adults love to blame kids. We are as addicted, and we love to doom scroll. And we think that we are listening to motivational, looking at motivational reels while children are looking at something that's not relevant. I mean, because we are adults, we love to think that what we are doing is right, what they're doing is wrong. So having said that, it's here to stay. How many of us in schools are having classes to manage social media accounts? How many schools are actually saying, okay, this is what algorithm influence means, and this is how it's managing your mind, it's controlling your mind. How many of us teach our children how to use LinkedIn to their advantage? How many of us are asking them to, or teaching them to handle Insta, Facebook, X, Snapchat? While we all as teachers talk about it, we are not taking the bull by the horn. So we are discussing what it's doing to us, but we are not discussing how to handle it. I think the boat has sailed for social media. It's gone. Its impact on mental health is gone. It's there. We know it. We have enough and more data. And we have no choice. We cannot take the kids away from social media. We can't take ourselves. I can't take myself away from social media. What am I talking about, the students I lead? I was just discussing with a friend of mine. I said yesterday I was traveling from the Delhi airport to New Friends Colony, and I told myself I'm not going to touch my phone between the Delhi airport and New Friends Colony. Only when I reached Panchsheel did I put my phone down, and I told myself, no. From Panchsheel to NFC, I won't touch it. Today, when I was coming from NFC, at Bhogal, I told myself, put your phone down. From Bhogal to Sansad Marg, you will not touch your phone. So we are all dealing with it. Now, all we have to do is we have to deal with it. It's not going away. Let's look for the solutions.
Good afternoon. I choose to echo what all my friends here have said. And I do believe social media is not at all evil. It's fun. It's something we all love. I love watching all the kids teach their fathers the shaky, shaky dance, which is my current addiction. But I have to acknowledge the fact, along with everybody, what everybody said here, that while it is here to stay, it's important for us to acknowledge all the consequences it brings along its way and address them in the right way. When we were young, a fight used to happen in class. We come back home, forget about it. Next day in school, we are friends again. What I'm seeing now is a fight starts in school. After school is over, it continues on WhatsApp. Then there are some snide comments on Snapchat. Then there is some sad stuff happening on Instagram. And the day ends with a poll on everybody deciding who's right and who's wrong. I don't think any of us students deserve judgment for using social media. But how it's used definitely is something that needs to be looked at in terms of the impact it can have. The feeling of constantly being watched, constantly being judged, is not something even adults can handle. So it's a huge burden for our kids to carry. And in the morning, we spoke about Gen Beta, Gen Alpha, and I think there's a lot we don't understand what the current generation talks about. In one of my conversations with the students of my grade 11, There were terms used like situationships and benching, and I had to go back to my nephew to understand what exactly it meant. Uh, so it's not just about the language, it's the kind of pressure they take back. It's not the same kind of pressure we had in school. I think the maximum my mom would tell me was that get me marks. Over here, a child has to get good marks, cope with peers socially, compete in dance, sports. The kind of pressure they are dealing with is so different that the kind of impact on their emotional and well-being and mental well-being is humongous. Social media has a huge impact in terms of isolating them, making them feel judged, compared, groupism. Everything is visible right there on social media for us.
Thank you so much. We all agree that it's here and we are riding on it. Easiest is that, if, to put the blame on the thing which can't defend itself, right? So it's very easy to put the blame on social media, right? But mental health is not only, mental health is all about balancing, as you rightly said. So social media, because it has been helping us and it has been very, beneficial for us in various ways. That's why it has grown to that extent. And now we are talking about mental health through social media. Because this whole topic has become so prominent because of the social media itself. So I would like to now, take the discussion a little further, where what is the benefits of social media and what is the cons of social media. So, if we debate that, then of course we are able to move forward in what the schools have to do for the kids, because kids are having this burden. It's very, very heavy on them. Ma'am, starting with you. How it is beneficial to the kids, and what is the impact it
Pros
is
and
having?
cons.
The pros and cons of social media.
That's for us. You go on the chat GPT and you can download that. But I think for me, more than the pros and cons, it's about equipping them to balance it. Creating spaces offline where they can actually find safety and security. Because while there are pros, we love to beat the con out of social media. And it is our favorite punching bag, like you said. Nevertheless, all of us, there's not one person in this room, I believe, who is not been on social media the last night. We have gone through all sorts of reels, and we are here, and the pros and cons are there. Pros are for us to be informed, to be aware, to all of that. But then again, how much of it is necessary? But when I equip my kid, as I remind myself, to be fully present where I am, to actually acknowledge the person in the room, I not only enable them to get off the digital slavery, but also create a space where I am able to make a meaningful connection one-on-one. We could have very well had this entire summit virtually. All of us would have been in the comfort of our spaces. There's a reason why we meet. There's a reason why we connect. There's a reason why we come together. There's something about face-to-face being present in this room, learning from one another. How much of what we have said people are going to remember? Forget people. How much of all that we have spoken we are going to take back is another matter. But it is about the experience of being able to learn from one another. One. Two, it is about being able to be vulnerable in a space where we are all learning together. See, those kind of experiences are irreplaceable. No screen, no digital app is going to be able to replicate that. So while I could be giving you a checklist of the pros and the cons, I would rather be talking about, well, what are the implications for us beyond just knowing the pros and the cons? it's about really finding that balance. And we will always be in that endeavor. Will we have, I don't think there's any one of us sitting here or standing who has said, I've, I've arrived, I've understood the perfect formula to find that balance. We are in that endeavor ourselves. But the one thing I'm grateful for is that in this journey, one, we are all together. Two, that we are able to learn from one another what works and what doesn't work. Three, we're able to develop mechanisms of what role do I want social media to play in my life. I can either be a passive consumer or I can have the agency to actively shape my own digital environment. Now, developing that agency, creating that space to develop that agency is something I think we all can actually play a role in.
Wonderful. Very nice. Anybody wants to add on to that?
Shall I?
Yeah, please.
It's very interesting to see or understand why children go on the social media. And the very pros become the cons. When children, they want to go on the social media because for the need of belongingness. They have a huge need to belong to their peer group, to belong to a larger community. And in their belongingness, they have the threat of getting trolled, right? They go on the social media because they are looking for, they're in a state of discovering their identity. In that state of discovering their identity, exploring different aspects, maybe videos, maybe photos, maybe getting those affirmations from others. Now, what do those affirmations bring back to the child, right? And what does his identity become? More than himself, is he something else, or he's judged by his looks or his clothes, or is he in the trend? That becomes the con. When a child goes on the social media, he's looking for entertainment. The fact that it provides a lot of entertainment, but that entertainment of what he's seeing, watching on the social media becomes a con. When a child or anybody, adult for that matter, we may not understand the boundary of what we are doing, what's appropriate, the discernment between what should be done and should not be done. When a child looks for a role model, influencers, they're so influenced, right? Who is that influencer? And what impact are those influencers making on the children or on anybody for that matter? That in itself becomes a con. So every aspect of social media, which is so positive in itself, becomes negative when the big picture, the boundary and the larger implications are not understood. If we are able to bring about that understanding and educate ourselves and educate our children, probably it will be easier for us to understand that certain things can be done and certain things may not be done. It's all about doing that. But it is so dangerously simple that here is the pros and here it becomes the cons. And what holds somebody to say that that's the balance here, I will not slip in and get into something else. I think it's that wisdom and discernment that we need to bring to our children.
And case studies need to be discussed. I think all of us within our own ecosystems, within our own, teachers, students, there are people who've had bad experiences. And for us to be, as adults, as Mr. Yadav also said and Dr. Pinto just said, the vulnerability of our own selves have to be put out in the open for the children to understand that yes, I was on social media, this is where I went wrong, and this is how it impacted me. And that can happen with a group of few people, within our own communities and the schools. For example, you have a school captain. Did he ever make a mistake? Is he courageous enough to share it with his peers and say, this is where I messed up? As the principal, have I made a mistake ever on social media? Did I know enough about it Did I present myself on a platform? And do I feel I made a mistake? I could have done better. I think these are things we need to discuss with children. You cannot give them data is good, but it's too far removed. We've got to get realistic in terms of what it's doing to each one of us, so that they feel that, it's not she's not talking to me. She's not giving me gyan. She's in it with me. So that has to happen. Otherwise, we've already lost the youngsters. We can't afford to lose them. And of course, we'll go on in the more questions as we answer.
Thank you. I think the point that ma'am made about a pro turning into a con so seamlessly is so profound, because I've used filters in the past to enhance my pictures. And then I see how some of my girls are using those filters and getting a damaged sense of their own beauty and reality and self-worth. And that's such a beautifully clear statement that anything that's good can become bad in a moment based on how it's used and where. And it just brings back the fact to us as education leaders that in school we are teaching them a curriculum with computers, with coding, with Canva, with everything possible. But maybe along with it, we need to teach them the concept of digital citizenship, which means not just the use of technology, but how to use it without offending others, understanding what to discard, what to retain, and so on and so forth. It actually it has to be woven into our school systems, because all of us agree and admit that we ourselves use so much of it. So I can't just get up and say, stop using it, because a student is likely going to come back and tell me, what about you? But it means I have to demonstrate and model how, in spite of using it, I'm able to critically think, differentiate, discern, use it till it's a pro and does not become a con, basically. Yeah.
Just to resonate with that and add to that, you said about, the sense of responsibility. And I think the moment, I like that this generation is not afraid to call out. They're very articulate and they're not afraid to call out. I've realized they value authenticity. And that's why at that point of, have we made a mistake? Do you have the courage to share it? And beyond that, do you actually take that responsibility to do something about it? The moment they see us model that, the moment they see their peers model that, it creates that sense of camaraderie around. And not a clan, but more camaraderie, saying that we are in this together. And with what Neena said about, that sense of belonging, unfortunately, because of the dynamics of working parents and family setups and all of that, it has come where there is less time for kids. We have slaughtered them in one program after another, hoping that they become prodigies in some way. But really, they have universally similar needs that we had. The need to belong, the need to be seen, the need to be heard. And that's why they find that easier virtually than physically. But this is where it's incumbent on us, not just within schools. I think if parents and schools work together to cultivate those spaces, it will change their lives. Just to create those spaces where they find safety and acceptance without being judged. Have the courage to share the vulnerabilities without being afraid. I think creating those spaces more and more, not that it's not already there, but to make it more acceptable, to make it happen more, I think that's on us.
So, social media, I think we're all very worried about it because we are vulnerable to judgment and we don't like being judged. Well, it's a part of life. you have to get used to being judged. So let's not keep the judgment part of it away from students. Don't let them feel that, you know, you won't be judged. You will be judged all the time. Get used to it. You know, we talked about life skills. We talked about critical thinking. We talked about adaptability. We are talking about application of knowledge. All of these are life skills. What is education? It's basically life skills. It's not the math and the science and the... What kind of life skills are we teaching them if we are not allowing them, or if we are not teaching them how to look beyond being judged? It's okay. I mean, as adults, I keep telling my boys, the moment I step out of the house, the guard bhaiya is judging me, the maliji is judging me, the beraji is judging me, you are judging me, the teachers are judging me, the parents are judging me. Can I run away? No, I can't. It's a part of my life. It's a part of your life. I'm going to judge you if you're going to misbehave. I will think that you're not behaving the right way. So, you know, instead of saying that, oh, they'll be judged, they will be judged. For sure. Teach them how to get over. Teach them how to deal with it. Teach them resilience. Give them time to meditate. Give them, integrate it. Forget, take away a math school. Take away a physics period. Take away a social science period. But give time for mindfulness after every period. There has to be a 2-minute break for mindfulness for everybody. So much so, we get into the, I mean, because I'm coming from a boarding school background. For us, it's when we go in to eat together, do we even understand what we are eating at that time? You know, all these things, social media we are talking about, and we are saying that children are losing sleep, children are getting into anxiety. 28% of the children between the age of 9 to 18 did not go to school in the UK in the year 23-24 because of school-going anxiety. All these things have to be dealt with now. And we have to look for time. My boys are walking in for lunch and walking out. Do they even realize what they've eaten? Are they eating mindfully? Are they reading mindfully? We've started a practice of compulsorily. After lunch, all of us say the grace, sit and read for 25 minutes. We read. As a school, we read. Now, you may not read. If you have 600 people sitting in the dining hall and reading, I'm sure many of them are not reading. But 25 minutes, we're all sitting quietly, even if we are not reading. So we are thinking, hopefully.
Thank you. So very, very deep and pertinent things are coming out of this from your discussion. I mean, you said very harsh thing that, you know, we have lost the generation. We don't want to lose them. We are losing them. Don't want to lose them. And, you know, as educationists, your role is very, very big, you know, and I think the world is coming full circle. Today we had been talking about making them human, you know, bringing in soft skills, compassion, all that, you know. So when I was studying, and I think you guys were also studying, there was a moral class, right? Moral science. And then, you know, there came sex education. So I use this platform to today talk to you about, you know, when sex education was introduced in the schools, it was like, you know, such a taboo, right? Everybody talked about it. Why should it be? Shouldn't be there. Shouldn't be. You know. Why can't there be a social media education in the schools? As you rightly said, as ma'am pointed out, why not mindfulness? You know, and why not deliberate physical, activities to, you know, handle this virtual world? So I will want to, you know, take your thoughts on why not a formal social media education to the kids right from the beginning. So that, we are talking about balance, we are talking about how to handle it. We are talking about algorithms. Yeah?
So, like I said, there is a digital citizenship curriculum that is available in the UK board. There is also a curriculum available called Well-being, with checklists for teachers and activities that can be woven in throughout from grade 1 to grade 10. And as a school, we have adopted it. It begins with recognizing yourself, your emotions, learning how to regulate it. The second strand is communicating with others, where it brings in interpersonal communication, social media, respecting boundaries, respecting diversity, and being genuine and kind. And the third part is navigating the world, which again talks about rights and duties that you have as a digital citizen. Bringing it in at a young age is very, very productive, and helps. I don't think there's ever going to be a debate like you had with sex education with regards to social media education, because all parents acknowledge that they are not able to control its usage. So you may not have this similar kind of debate with social media education, but we have to have a purpose. Like ma'am said, we have to have the willingness to take away one period from math and one period from social science and actually bring it in, and not tokenism where we have one poster making competition talking about evils of social media, or one workshop. It doesn't end there. It cannot be a token output, because like ma'am said, the ship has sailed. I mean, there's a lot that has already happened, and if we want to control it, it has to be integrated in our daily routine, in our encompassing the DNA and ethos of the school, basically, across subjects and across kids, for us to actually see an impact. So, yes, that's what it should be.
I think it also goes beyond just mere policies and vague warnings. Like it's no longer, sufficient, or we'll find ourselves at the receiving end of mockery if we say we are banning social media. That is like, but what we can do is, like Tanya said, about institutionalizing, if I may say, practices, simple practices that consistently over time create a culture. And with parents on board, because we can do all the great work in school, and then unless you have the parents on board, having shared vocabulary at home, being on the same page, not necessarily being the same, but at least, yeah, you got to have that synergy. Only then kids are not going to find a way to leverage discrepancy. What has happened is we have given them ample opportunities to call out discrepancy. And you can't blame them. Because, like Tanya, remember you referred to the whole filters part. They have learned to navigate what to show and what to keep. And we are not necessarily at school alone, but I think we as a society are to blame. We are just as much a part of it. So now how do we undo it? Small practices, simple practices. I love the idea of reading. Similarly, just pause during the day, just after recess, before recess, we have lunch breaks. Just pause, especially at the time of the assembly. I love that part of the day because, people come in from, both teachers and students alike, come in from all sorts of drama, and then you just have to learn to let it go at the time of assembly. Reflect, pause with gratitude, and then start the day. Because that's when you start seeking clarity, purpose, and you want to do something productive then. And I know most of our teachers do their best. And I can say this across the board for our nation. I think whether it is in the villages, whether it is in semi-urban, or metros. Most of the teachers sincerely try to balance the academics and policies and curriculum, but more than that, just putting values, just being able to model those values. But beyond that, unless we have the parents on board, being able to speak the same vocab, it will constantly be a push-pull kind of a thing.
I'm going to split this conversation into two parts. I'm going to talk about the fact that the question that you raised, can we train children for social media, the usage of social media? Absolutely. I mean, that's the need of the hour in terms of the way we did for sex education or we do for sex education. Similarly, talking about social media, the pros and cons, teaching children, educating them to use it in the right way is one part of it. But at the same time, managing it with the other practices, like my friends, they spoke about mindfulness. Now, to understand that mindfulness is an important piece. So in terms of Indian education, when we talk about spirituality, when we talk about meditation, when we talk about being in that moment, mindfulness is about being in that moment. Mindfulness is about acknowledging and accepting that moment where you are pausing, you are reflecting before you do anything else. How then in our daily practices of the school do we apply this quality of being in every act that we do? When we walk, are we mindful? Are we mindful of people who are on the right side and the left side? As children, are we mindful? Another way is that all children make a queue and walk in the corridors safe. Is that practically possible? No. But maybe walking comfortably through the corridors, but yet being aware that somebody is following. Am I making way? Is being conscious and aware in that moment. How are we eating our food? Do we have the practice of having that silence while eating food? Are we able to concentrate and take a deep breath? How many times in our practice are we bringing and acknowledging that children have sat for 40 minutes? It's not easy for them to absorb 40 minutes, if they're not doing any action or they're not involved or there's no rigor. In those terms, do we give them the opportunities to do deep breathing? Between transition times, are we giving time for deep breathing? Do we have practices which will allow children and bring it as a language for the school to say, or for children to say, I am practicing pause. How do I practice reflect? How do I bring these elements in my day-to-day routine? If, for example, we are talking about, we usually say, what are the working agreements? The working agreements of, if we are working together, what are the agreements and principles on which we are going to talk? What are our norms of collaboration? If we are collaborating, what norms are we following, right? And a part of those norms is also, how do you bring issues to table? How do you converse? How do you pause? How do you reflect before you even ask another question? So parallelly, the school education also has to strengthen this aspect of learning and growing, so that the social media is also compensated by other practices which are really important. Today, science and spirituality is getting together. The scientists are finding reasons for spirituality. But spirituality in true sense is about being in that moment, accepting, as she said, whatever it is, it is. So when sometimes children say, oh my God, we've been bullied, the reality is that we were bullied in our times also. Bullying is happening even now. The forms of bullying and the degree of bullying may have changed, the accessibility of bullying may have changed, but is there a conscious awareness in the system of how we are managing these aspects? That's the big question. I think that's important for us to navigate.
So, at the cost of sounding politically incorrect, I'm sure many of us have watched that film of this Ranveer Singh and Alia Bhatt. Who, in which, with Dharmendra and Jaya Bachchan and all of that. I don't know, I'm forgetting the name. Wherein there is a piece where he's not supposed, he's being judged for not being sophisticated enough. Rocky and Rani, yes. And there is this minute or two of a soliloquy, so to say. He says, what do I do? Where do I go if I, you know, I mean, again, I said at the cost of sounding politically incorrect. I mean, bullying, what is bullying? You know, I'm sorry, but if somebody calls somebody a fatso, he says, what do I do? He says, this is how I've been brought up. This, I just thought it was a routine thing. You know, so children have to be taught that yes, we are looking for a perfect world, but the world will never be perfect. We are all going to work towards a perfect world. Whether it be an online world or an offline world, we are all working towards that perfect world. But will it ever be perfect? Perfection is a myth. There is nothing that is perfect. So get used to the imperfections around you and learn to deal with those imperfections, because neither am I perfect nor are you. But my imperfections are mistakes and your imperfections are crimes. That is not how it works. Whether it be online or offline. मैंने तो गलती करी है, आपने crime कर दिया. These are, you have to show the reality to the kids. I mean, there is no, get on to the, how are you teaching? We are a device-free zone, by the way. For 8 months in a year, the boys don't get any device. Only grade 12 gets a device from 6 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Some of them, when they are applying abroad, they get it overnight also. But otherwise, there is no device. Of course, every classroom has interactive flat panels and all of that. That IT-enabled classrooms are there. Boys go into the IT lab. They do all of that, AI, robotics, all of that, but they don't have devices. So they need to. They are on the sports field. They are in the debating club. They are learning instruments to play. They are learning how to sing. Within that, they are having conflicts. They are learning how to manage conflicts. They are learning teamwork. They are learning all of that. They are learning the fact that yes, there will be people who will be mean sometimes. We do tell them, the bottom line is, if you are finding pleasure in the pain of another, you have to step back and reflect. If you are being mean and somebody is uncomfortable and somebody is miserable and you are laughing on the side with a friend, then my son, there is something wrong with you. So simplify things for them. Let's not think small.
Yeah.
Can I add?
Yeah,
a
please,
very,
please.
Aspect. You know, and I am in agreement with you that the world is a complex place, and we will not find simplicity of life anywhere around us. But at the same time, managing emotions is a huge thing. Adults break down. Adults have conflicts. We don't know what to do in a conflict. We don't know what will help us in managing that conflict. I see that as adults, we were never given the tools. We never had the tools of how do we manage our emotions. I don't even remember, were we ever given a vocabulary to understand the emotions or to describe our emotions. I don't know when do I feel agitated and what is feeling angry, what is feeling annoyed, what is feeling upset. What are the small differences, in these emotions? So it's very, very important that there needs to be a program, and I'm sure many schools do that where you bring yourself or the children close to these emotions to understand that human beings are made of these emotions and these will get triggered in different situations. And while we may say that yes, the world is like this, does it also give us the right to then keep accepting that the world is like this? What is my role as a child or as a citizen or as an adult to a situation like that? Do I have ample tools which will help me to deal if I get bullied? Now, to accept that I will get bullied, to accept that this is how the life is, will not help the person who's feeling devastated or loss of identity. That child will need enough tools to say, how do I deal with it? Is me just the likes that I have? Is me just the comments that I have on the social media or even otherwise? But do I have ample tools? Do I know that if I'm upset and I'm angry, what's the tool I can use? I can sit and deep breathe and sit on one side and say, okay, I can do this, I can calm myself down. So what are those 20 strategies? So as educators, we also have a responsibility to expose our children to these various tools right from the nursery class. How do you help a 3-year-old child to navigate this tool? So where do you make a beginning? But the beginning has to be made to say, okay, are you even familiar about your emotions? Are you familiar about your body? Are you even familiar about the touch? And do you know yourself? A small child touched, does he understand what that feeling is? Is he able to articulate that feeling? And if we do not give those tools in today's date, the world is going to be dangerous. You see, protecting ourselves, and which is just not only the physical, the social and emotional protection, it needs a lot of practical, it needs tools. It doesn't come in easily. We have learned it the hard way. Our emotional outbursts have been enough.
So I'll quickly talk about 3 things. 1, your emotions are welcome. Your behavior is not. Just because I'm angry doesn't mean that somebody else has to pay the price of my anger. So your behavior is your responsibility. Your emotions are most welcome. Let us sit and discuss them. But if your emotions are going to end up harming somebody else because of your behavior, sorry, that is not acceptable. 2, two-pronged approach, wherein A, you are educated in school, you are empowered by way of education as to what are the laws of the land vis-a-vis bullying, ragging, and any other kind of harassment. 1. That is extremely important. That education is the real empowerment when you know where it can take you if you go wrong. 2, as ma'am said, absolutely, do you have the courage? Do you have the voice? Do you have the agency? And have we as schools empowered you enough to get up and raise your voice? That is extremely important, be it social media or online, offline, any which way. So these 3 things, I'm sure all of us are doing it. And I'm sure all of us, this is a part of our curriculum now. I don't think any school is functioning without all of this. So all of this is mandatory. It's a life skill. There is no way you can live without it. I don't think so.
Yeah, so Dr. Pinto, you want to add something?
Yeah, just quickly. I think in keeping with what Neena and Sangeeta said, yeah, so I've just got that right, is also being aware of the ground realities. Our reality in our cities may not be the reality in the villages or in the rural sector. And especially based on, in terms of when we, what is the norm for acceptable behavior? Based on what they shared, I'm wondering what is acceptable in the 2nd tier or 3rd tier towns may not be acceptable in the metros. That's why having parents together with you in making those working agreements is essential. And like Sangeeta said, it is already happening. In many of the schools, it's already a part. Parental engagement is increasing, and it is a welcome move. But it has to be constructive. It has to be purposeful. It has to be intentional towards an outcome that is not just favorable, but more acceptable to the larger community.
Yeah, so, we have run out of time. I don't know if Aditya sir will allow us to talk further, but, there's so much left to be talked about because time was very less. Now, as educators, as teachers, I wanted to touch upon how do you get to know that the kid is getting mentally disturbed? How do you handle it? Do we have mechanisms in the schools to cope up with that? Are we, as teachers, educated enough to know all that? So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, do we have 5 minutes? 2 minutes. 2 minutes, yeah.
Okay,
Dr. Pinto.
so I think as teachers, our radars go up very high when we see a child withdrawn, when we see the attendance, when we see the mornings of the child more sluggish. There are these small things that act as signals to us. But other than that, the connection and empathy that we show our children allow them to open up to us very frequently with what's happening with them, whether it's being bullied or everything. Like, the real world is brutal, but then empathy and connection are very powerful tools by themselves in teachers' hands. So teachers are trained. There is a well-being checklist. There are adequate and more PDs happening across schools now with respect to talking about mental well-being, training teachers in recognizing the signs on a day-to-day basis, and the right intervention at the right time with parents as partners, never without them to handle that, yeah.
Firstly, it's been a privilege just to be learning alongside, right? Like Sangeeta said, it's here to stay. Social media is not going away. How we equip our children to thrive is important. The tools that we equip them with, if we ourselves are not consistently practicing that, and not that we perfected it, but consistently practicing it to make it to as much as we own it. I think once the kids see that and we create those spaces where they find safety in being vulnerable, I think for us, when we have created those connections, when we have been able to create those spaces, then you have children opening up, then you have them coming forward to really not just share and get it over with, but to really be a part of a larger community that means well. I think all of us are in this together, and that's why I'm so grateful for our educators. Whether they belong to Ryan or not, I'm just grateful that for such a time as this, we have been appointed, we are authorized, we're equipped to do good, and we will.
Thank you so much. Our editors are here, Priya is here. So, 4 large pillars which are coming out of this discussion, I think, is that, social media education has to be there in the schools. Practices like mindfulness and, being aware and all that has to be there. Giving kids the courage to, face judgment and, criticism and all that has to be there. The involvement of parents, it has to be a cohesive effort. And yes, the teachers are well equipped to understand where the kids are going through that phase, which I think it's a brilliant discussion we had. And thank you so much, everyone. I mean, it had been a learning experience for me. And I think we'll play it back through our mediums.
Just one.
Yeah,
last
please,
one.
please.
All of us dealing with children here, whether at home, with your children, or in schools, or with your siblings. We talked about how do you recognize that the child is not well? When he is silent, that is his scream. So the silence is the scream of a child. Do not underestimate it. Please react. And that is for all children. Please, that's extremely important because they're going through a lot. Thank you very much.